He can't help that, sir. It's a loose tooth, sir.
Yeah? What's your name?
Oliver Norval Hardy, sir.
When I interviewed Babe Hardy, he said, these two fellas have as much right to exist as anybody on earth, and they have just as much right to be called Mr. Stan and Ollie are real people, and they are good people. So I don't feel bad that people connect me with a very dumb guy. In my opinion, he is also a very nice guy, and there are a lot of him around.
A motley assortment of people on the streets of Madison, Georgia. And it was Ollie's hobby to watch them. Their faces, their clothes, the way they behaved.
He started on that, he said, as a child in his mother's hotels. He used to call himself a great lobby watcher because he loved watching people and try to figure out their characters and then watch their mannerisms. And that was part of the portrayal, the characterization, actually, that he used on the screen. He'd read a script and he might remember, oh, I saw somebody like that, such and such a place, and he would sort of build that into the characterization and develop the character.
Ollie is the elephant. Ollie is behaving with a kind of enormous elephantine elegance. This huge bulk, which is in itself very funny, is allied to tiny and beautiful gestures. All the gestures of the hands are tiny and beautiful and most elegant and exquisite. And yet you perform these alarming things.
He had the typical Southern courtly gentleman's mannerisms, holding a cup of tea with a little finger extended. He said he used to watch his mother and his Aunt Susie, which he adored. He'd watch them with the ladies they'd be drinking tea in the afternoon, come to call on his mother. And he always felt that women should always be treated with respect. And that no matter what, a lady was a lady and should always be treated as such. He thought everyone should be polite to everybody else, and there'd be no trouble in the world if people would just treat other people the way they'd like to be treated.
See what a little bit of kindness will do?
You're right. A little kindness goes a long way.
All his life he regretted not having had sufficient education. He went to school at Georgia Military College, but he was more interested in singing and in the new craze, the movies. Films were made in and around New York, in Chicago, Philadelphia, and Nickelodeons were springing up all over the country. Ollie went to Florida and got a chance to work for the Lubin Motion Pictures Company. Meanwhile, on the sunny West Coast, a small rural community at the outskirts of Los Angeles called Hollywood. A perfect place to grow fruit and vegetables. A potential gold mine waiting for its prospectors to arrive.
There's everything from soup to nuts, folks. Come and get it.
In the early and mid-1910s, Hollywood was the place to be for anyone wanting to give it a try in film comedy. A young producer was Joe Rock. He later worked with Stan Laurel.
Well, in the days that I was making the beginning of the stuff, we had an outdoor studio. There were very few indoor studios, and outdoor studios with canvas that they pull across, and reflectors would reflect the light into the set.
When the sun didn't shine, we couldn't work. We made only one reel pictures at that time, and we made one a week. And many times we'd have to make a picture in a day and a half because we only got that much sun, particularly during the winter time in California. But if we had bright sunshine, very often we were through with our picture by Friday afternoon.
The cameras, they're very heavy. They weigh about 100 pounds. And they're all cranked by hand. The cameraman would crank by hand. And he'd do that for, 5 minutes.
People that were pretty good actors got $5 a day. Just the run-of-the-mill got $3 a day. There was little Sammy Brooks, he was almost a midget. There was Earl Mohan, who played drunk parts. And Noah Young, who was the champion heavyweight lifter of Los Angeles, who was the big, tough, heavy man in the pictures.
Another regular heavy was Oliver or Babe Hardy.
By 1917, Stan too was attracted from musical to motion pictures. And in the same year, it so happened that in a short comedy, Lucky Dog, Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy appeared together.
Almost by accident. It was just another job for both of them. But once it was done, they went their separate ways.
But when it was released, the film's success set off Stan on a continuous job in films. Hal Roach, by now a successful producer, launched him in his own series of short comedies. The character of the brash, aggressive, resourceful young man Stan portrayed was a success. He's joined the Hal Roach Stock Company. By 1926, he was a star.
It so happened that Oliver Hardy, too, was a member of the Roach Company. And Sugar Daddies is only one of a dozen short comedies made in 1927 in which they appeared together. Again, the first step was almost by accident.
It happened that Babe Hardy was in the same picture, and they were together. Then the next picture, we gave them a little more together, and we could really see that this was going to make a team. It's just seeing the two together and how they complemented each other. I mean, that they were so entirely different in type and so entirely different in character that after that we teamed them as two comedians.
Thank you, Ollie. You're welcome, Stan. I want you to remember, from now on, my home is your home.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Stan. And I'm never going to let you out of my sight again.
Thank you, Ollie.
You're welcome, Stan.
They did belong together like ham and eggs, fish and chips. There comes a particular time when certain things, after a while, have a coalescence that is almost inevitable.
Do Detectives Think? The first release film with Laurel and Hardy, officially as a team.
The moment they come together, the moment they really work together, even playing not as a team but almost opposite one another to achieve different ends, as in Putting Pants on Philip, you sense a marvelous balance, the kind of need they have to be together.
The gentleman from the South meets the visitor from Britain.
Laughing at a joke commits you to accepting the joke. There's no doubt about that, to my mind. The moment you go, ha ha ha, you've bought the joke. The moment you smile with fondness for Laurel and Hardy as a team, then you require no further explanation of their being together. There was never any question. You never questioned why Babe needed Stan and Stan needed Babe. Ollie and Stan belonged together.
I can remember crying at a Laurel and Hardy movie. I never cried at a Charlie Chaplin movie. Everyone else did, but I never did. But there was a film in which they were to be separated. And it was so sad I cried as a child.
They need one another like a ping pong ball between two rackets, you know? They exchange.
Fresh fish caught in the ocean this morning.
This was their genius, because they needed really one another like black and white, like tragedy and comedy. They needed for their equilibre, for their balance, they needed one another.
The shape of one against the other was all wrong. You know, it just didn't work out. They didn't sound like each other. How they were ever got together is a miracle.
Boy, oh boy. For the first time in our lives, we're a success. A nice little fish business and making money.
One was so stupid and one was so fat that they just had to be together, you know, just like that, just had to be together.
What we don't realize enough is that they team together like actors of high comedy. The school of the commedia dell'arte, the Greek and Roman tradition. For instance, we speak about Don Juan. We see Don Juan and his valet Leporello. We speak about Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy had to team together exactly like in the style of high comedy. It was like Sancho Panza receiving orders from Don Quixote and making it wrong, but they needed one another, and when something happens, they were both in trouble, and they didn't know how to get out of it, except one getting the help of the other one.
I think they have antecedents in drama. I think you can't see Twelfth Night without seeing something of Ollie in Sir Toby Belch and something of Stanley in Sir Andrew Aguecheek.
Or wouldn't Laurel and Hardy fit perfectly into the dreamlike fantasy world of Alice in Wonderland?
There's never a realistic gesture. They were struggling with the absurd. They are really the ancestors of the theater of the absurd. Making a finger become a flame, or they just lean against the wall and suddenly the wall crumbles down. They were absolutely surrealistic. They did absolutely impossible things I never witnessed in life. They kept a dimension which was above reality.
You can see traces of them in Beckett's play, Waiting for Godot. The fat bully Pozzo with a dithering slave at the end of a rope. I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Beckett didn't have Stan and Ollie at the back of his mind. The relationship of the complacent, smug master and the vague, dithering servant is exactly what's in Beckett's play and in the Laurel and Hardy pictures.
Why don't you watch where you're going?
They're Weary Willie and Tired Tim of the comics.
The Walrus and the Carpenter in Lewis Carroll.
Or just The Fat and the Thin.
The Fiddle and the Bow.
Morecambe and Wise?
In Sweden and Norway, they're known as Helvan and Halvan. In Denmark, Gog and Koki. In Germany, Dick und Dorf. In Hungary, Stan és Pan. In Poland, Flippy Flap. In Romania, Stan and Bran. In Portugal, O Buca and O Estica. In Greek, Xanapol and Ashnoi. In Egypt, El Tikin and Rufain. In Israel, Hashemen ve Haraze. And in Turkey, Sishman ve Zaif. And I remember during the war, like Neapolitans crying out, they'd call out to somebody who they thought was a bit of a fool and say, "Way, Walio, Walio."
I think perhaps a good deal of the popularity which they now enjoy depends on their attitude to authority. Ollie is authority. Stan is the obedient one who manages to make authority no-go. Authority doesn't work. Authority is made a fool of. And this beautiful, elegant, huge, stout, heavy, pompous character, which is authority, is made to slip on the famous banana skin. The banana skin which one thinks has been worked to death and could never be funny again, with them is always funny. They show you the banana skin and you know they're going to slip on it,